MVP.
Hits one in the air, left center field, back it goes! Harper, the swing of his life!
You never get ahead of yourself. As Burns down the field,
I know rent to do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that rent's due, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 121. Myself, Adam Seltzer, here alongside Mr. Chris Guest. Al Ryan, he is ramping up on a minutes restriction tonight, similar to Mr. Paul George, who will be making his Sixers debut. So he will be along shortly to join us, but it is a special day, Chris.
What's that?
It is a special day. It is the birthday of your girls, your twin girls.
Sure, yes, absolutely. I thought you were saying from a sports perspective.
No, but did you know that your daughters share a birthday with American hero Jeff Probst?
No, that's your boy.
That is my boy.
No, I didn't know that, but I did know born in 2000 on this date was superstar on the Sixers, Tyrese Maxey.
I mean, we got birthdays all around.
Yeah, it's a big day in the Philadelphia area. Is Probst a local guy?
No, I don't think he's local.
He just like feels like he would be a guy that was like randomly from like somewhere around here. Like
He got a little bit of Philly vibes to him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's for sure. But happy birthday to the two girls. Did you guys do anything special?
No, just waiting for the party on Saturday. We just kind of we kept them home from daycare today and spent the day with them. But and they had their 1-year appointment today. So, but other than that, no, nothing too crazy.
So you gave them a bunch of needles.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. So that's what Sarah said to the doctor too. Yeah, we love them so much. We brought them on their birthday to get 3 shots.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. We got a loaded show for you tonight. We're going to do something pretty fun with the Sixers. Obviously, the Embiid, Marcus Hayes situation. Just another item to a long list of Sixers WTF moments is what I would say. But before we get into that, Chris, I think we at least need to touch a couple minutes on the Eagles. Now, winners of 4 in a row out of the bye. They beat the Jaguars 28-23, and what honestly was a game that was not as close as the score would show, even though it got a little hairy there at the end. I think that the defense has really started to come around. We've seen Jalen Hurts now seemingly be back in the form he was 2 years ago. And they're playing some good football. I want to keep it positive here. There obviously was some negatives in the game, specifically with the coaching. But all in all, I think they went into this 4-game stretch, and we said they had to go 3-1 to save this season, and they won all 4.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, like you said, the game wasn't as close as the score showed and shouldn't have been that close, of course, with the coaching decisions, but also the officiating was terrible in that game. The touchdown that by Hurts on the goal line, I thought he was clearly across the plane on that. They said he wasn't. The Saquon fumble when he was tripped up, causing him to fall down and then lose the ball on the ground when he hit the ground. A tripped up play is still a tackle, and grounds can't cause a fumble when initiated by a tackle. So I don't really know what the rule, why that was called as a fumble still, but either way, they tried to hold us back, Seltzer, but they couldn't do it. The Eagles still ended up on top. Luckily, it sounds like AJ's okay. AJ Brown. It sounds like he dodged a big injury, potential injury to his knee, which is giving me a little concern. This guy, he's for as big and strong as he is. I feel like every year even before he was here, I feel like he's had a little bit of injury bugs. Right? I mean, am I wrong by that? He was hurt with the Titans too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had some injury issues with the Titans. I think it was a hamstring that held him out for some games. When he wasn't there, was there 2 years or 3 years?
Oh,
I'll pull up his resume now.
I want to say 3, but I know he's not old, but
No, I'm pulling up his.
I can't imagine he had to be longer than 2 years, right?
I think 3 is probably correct, but let me just give me a sec here. I couldn't find his pro football. Let's go stats. 3 years in Tennessee.
Right.
I mean, not entirely injury prone. 16, 14, 13 for games played.
So there's a couple knickknacks.
Yeah, and to be fair, he played 17 games the first 2 years he was here. So
Yeah.
he gets
Maybe I'm
nicked
wrong
here
on
and
that.
there.
Yeah. But what I learned from that game is definitively this team is different when he's not on the field. They are clearly different offensively. And in the same way that Lane Johnson, when he's not on the field, they're different. Those two guys are so impactful and so important for this team. Not just on the offensive side of the ball, but I think just in general. Like the mojo's just different when those guys aren't playing. So, like I said, thankfully it sounds like he's not going to miss maybe no time, or if he is, maybe just a little bit minimal. But
You talking about me, guest?
Yeah,
Don't worry. I only missed about 6 minutes. I'm here. Don't worry.
Perfect time with the that fresh salmon hoodie.
Man, no, this is a sharp color right here.
It is. That's what I'm saying. I'm a big salmon fan.
Let me tell you what.
I got a pair of salmon slacks.
It's comfortable. Oh,
yeah. Slacks. I wear that. That's my summer collection for the school.
I got a salmon coat jacket I'll have to wear next week.
Very nice.
You know where it is?
The skinny closet. I just want to, Chris, you mentioned the officiating. I just want to touch on one thing that I've noticed in a lot of sports now is these refs will let plays go because they're not sure what's happening, or they say, hey, replay will solve this. And the issue with that is then when you go to replay, you have to have conclusive evidence to overturn it. And that's where, to me, again, they let that fumble play itself out on the field, thinking that, hey, we have replay in our back pocket. And then it becomes a disadvantage to the Eagles because they have to prove it wrong.
Well, and then it's weird, too, because now they have where the referees can get a buzz from New York or Secaucus or wherever the hell the headquarters is, and basically have them overturn a call without a challenge.
Yeah.
So that throws a monkey wrench in it too, so to speak. So it's just all these cameras, all these angles, and to still get calls wrong is just I just don't understand it. It's really, really frustrating.
Yep.
It's weird. I was just gonna say real quick, it's weird being in this, like, we're in this gray area when it comes to reffing in all of sports right now, where we have some technology where we can get it right 100% of the time, but then we don't have the technology. Like, it's like, I'm okay with human error and with conceding the fact that we're not perfect and they're going to miss calls. But when you have technology where that's not supposed to happen, then you can't let it happen.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I hate how it's not all or nothing just yet.
Yeah, no, and I think the AI movement is so strong and really quick. I can't imagine within the next decade. Honestly, I would not be surprised if we go by the wayside for officials in sports. I really would not be surprised by that, which is unfortunate because above all, it takes away human jobs. But like you said, Al, when you have the ability to fix the problem and the capability now at this point and not to do it still is just malpractice.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I want to move along because we have a cool activity tonight, but the Sixers continue to be a mess both on and off the court. They fall to 1-4 with another double-digit loss to the Memphis Grizzlies this weekend. But the bigger news was not only does Joel Embiid come out and speak on Friday, laying out the comments that he's done too much for this city to get the bullshit that he's received, specifically talking about the Marcus Hayes article that came out in the preseason. But the context is a little bit out there in that situation. Then has a physical altercation with Marcus Hayes
throwing the hands
on Saturday in the locker room. Words were exchanged beforehand. They said Joel was cursing at him. Obviously ends up putting his hands on him, shoving him. stating that he should never reference his son or his dead brother in an article, and that he could say whatever he wants about Joel. But if he does reference his family again, there will be consequences to that will be worse than what happened this time. I have a lot of thoughts. I've swung back and forth on it over the weekend. I want to hear what you guys have to say first before I kind of give my spiel.
I mean,
yeah,
Hayes, I think we all hopefully agree that Hayes is out of line with his comments, because if you read the article, the comments are totally out of place. Like they really did not belong. They did nothing to help prove any type of point, or really like build any kind of narrative. Like they were just kind of a cheap shot thrown in there. And you're talking about a guy's dead brother, like a guy's dead relative, something that happened years ago. So for Hayes to do that, he was just trying to evoke emotion, not only out of Joel, but out of his readers. He's doing his job just in the most shitty, inhumane way possible. So I think we all probably agree, hopefully, that Hayes' comments were out of line and disrespectful. With that said, I'm still on Embiid's side as far as him standing up for himself. Especially in the wake of everything that's kind of been going on with Joel Embiid and all the backlash he's been getting for not playing, and for basically just the frustration over the last 8-9 years in Philadelphia. With all that said, he can't do what he did. I mean, at the end of the day, he still has to be a professional and still has to understand that you can't put your hands on the reporter. If a parent in my profession complains to the principal about me or says something at a board meeting about me, I can't go seek that parent out and put my hands on that person. So I think that he has to be smarter in that situation, even though you are asking a lot out of him based on what was said.
Can I just one question before I get Chris Kaiser's spiel? I agree 1,000,000% that the comments were completely unnecessary in the article. You said, Al, it didn't fit. You could have taken that paragraph completely out of there and it wouldn't have changed the article at all. It was clearly a shot to provoke. I agree. With that said, the only thing that he said about his dead brother was that he named his son after him. Now, he did say that he pledged to perform for his son, and he hasn't done that. But he didn't really say anything bad necessarily about the brother. The comments were unnecessary, but I don't think they were derogatory in regards to the brother at all. All it said was that he named his son Arthur after his dead brother. That's all it said.
But to Al's point and everybody else's point, there's no need to say that.
Agreed. I agree.
If you don't, like, he's almost being passive by not addressing it further, in my opinion, of going deeper into that avenue of whatever he called himself doing in that article. To me, I read it as him basically saying that your promises to your son are BS. It's hollow because you haven't backed it up. Right. And as a man, that's such a slap at your manhood and your fatherhood. And Al, you're 100% right in terms of like the school board thing and all that. But everybody has a tick. Everybody has something that is a trigger. And for a lot of people in the world, it's your family. And as a parent, I mean, we're all parents here. We're all dads. And I'll be brutally honest with, and I'm sure you have felt or said the same thing before, but I've said on this day of my daughter's birthdays, if anybody ever messes with those girls, seriously, I'm not talking about like, oh, you're stupid. I'm talking about seriously. I'm coming home, I'm kissing my wife, and I'm going to get locked up, because that's a trigger for me. Is family. I don't play with it. I don't play that. Now, with that being said, I'm not a gazillionaire NBA role model, superstar, all that. As teachers, we're role models, right? And that's inherent. And because of that, it'd be very, very hard for me to not it'd be very hard for me to be able to say that it'd be like, oh yeah, I would definitely not respond in a bad way. But when you're in that moment, in the heat of everything going on, man, it's hard to be the big person sometimes. And I think we know Joel as far as the kind of person he is. You can say we want about a basketball player and all that kind of stuff, but he's never shown to be a bad guy. He's never shown to be someone that kids shouldn't look up to in terms of his persona. He's a very smart and intelligent person. He knows 5 languages. All right. But he got caught in a moment of weakness. And do I, like Chris Rock said before, do I think that he should have done what he did? No, but I understand.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at with it. I understand why he did it. Should he have? Probably not. But that's his trigger. And as a grown man, you should know better than to try to trigger another grown man and expect to just get away with it. Because it doesn't always happen that way.
Chris, I'll say this, though. We've often talked about Joel's immaturity. And I think that at a certain point, okay, yes, we do all have our triggers. I'm not going to sit here and criticize or say that I'm the be all end all as far as deciding, what button is the button to push and what's not, and how people react. But when you get to a certain point in your life, your decisions have consequences that far outreach yourself. Sure. So if when I was in my 20s, I was a hothead. I made decisions that I wouldn't have made now in my 30s, going into my 40s as a father, because I understand that if I make those decisions now, I'm putting my children's lives in danger if I make certain stupid decisions. If I get cut off in traffic and I decide to tailgate somebody, like, it's different now than in my 20s. And I'm not sitting here tooting my own horn, no pun intended, but I think that there's just a certain maturity that you have to be able to get to when you're in a different position in your life than when you're in your 20s and you're single and you don't have any kids. And Joel Embiid, he's a father at the end of the day. He's the breadwinner. This was small, but I think it could have been worse. And I just think he has to show a little bit more maturity to just say, like, get this guy the hell out of the locker room, right? Like that's where, first of all, and let's go back to that. The Sixers failed him by letting Marcus Hayes in that locker room after knowing.
Well, what else is new?
Yeah, it's a clown franchise. I know.
So I mentioned I've thought about this for a while, and Al, I want to kind of jump on top of what you're saying. To me, as I thought about this again, having gone through the Joel Embiid experience for almost 10 years at this point, I think he is mentally going through some stuff right now. I think it has to do with his knee not responding the way it wants to. I think it has to do with this, the pressure of him to get on the floor. He could say what he wants about us having a plan and we're going to perform the plan. He hears all the voices. He's always been a guy who hears everything said about him. And there's not only from the Philadelphia media, but from the national media about this plan in place for him and what it's going to mean, and him not playing back-to-backs. I think that weighs on him. I think this Marcus Hayes thing weighed on him. And I think he got to a breaking point. And I don't necessarily think it was all about Marcus Hayes. I think it's all these things building up inside of him. And we know, and again, I don't mean this as like disrespectful, but it's what we've seen. He's not the mentally toughest guy in the room. He's never has been on the court. We've seen teams take him out of games. And I worry that he's worried that something bigger is going on here, especially physically with his body, that he may not even be able to be the player that he was, is, or could be at this point because of what's going on. And that's my bigger fear, that this isn't just a Marcus Hayes thing. This is a bunch of things going on in this guy, and this was the breaking point.
Well, I think that there could be something to that. I think that he's frustrated, obviously, that he's not playing. But I also think that, we talked about this the other day. Say what you want about Joel with the injuries and this and that, and I've said on here before as his biggest defender out of the three of us, but I've also said that I don't know if his body is just built to be a professional athlete. With that being said, Joel's never come out and said, I'm not playing, ever. There's not 1 ounce of data or any articles or posts or anything that says that Joel said he did not want to play in this game or didn't feel like he could play in this game. He's always wanted to play. The Sixers have babied him for 10 years now, and they continue to do so because he's their biggest asset financially. They know that. We know that. Not just as someone that they're paying the most, but also someone that's bringing them in the most financially. And so they're going to protect their asset. And I think that it's in a large way, it's come at his expense. Al, you mentioned when you were just talking a minute ago how they did a disservice by having Marcus Hayes in that room. You're absolutely right. This is nothing new to this organization. This organization gave him that minute restriction when he was a rookie, and I would go down those games, and he'd be on a 24-minute restriction, and it was almost daily, almost every game where when it got to that point, he was visibly frustrated. He would slap his chair, throw a towel, whatever. He wanted to play more. And his body and the Sixers just wouldn't allow him. So his heart's always been there. With that being said, Seltzer, I think that you're right that mentally, that's all tying into this right now. He's getting older. He's got a kid. He's got a bone-on-bone knee. He's got he won a gold medal, and all he hears when he comes back to the city he plays for is, "Why'd you play in the Olympics, bro? We need you on this team instead." So there was no support there. All these things that he's hearing, and he's probably at his wits' end. He's probably getting fed up. And I agree with you, Seltzer. I hope that it's not, I read the other day that Morey and Elton brought Marcus Hayes, another thing to our point that we just talked about, brought Marcus Hayes after that altercation into a room and basically apologized for Joel on his behalf to Marcus Hayes. That's not, and they didn't even talk to Joel yet. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's not cool. And even if you think that he should have been restrained and not done that, that's fine. And I'm not debating that. But what I am debating is, he's your player. He's your guy first, not Marcus Hayes. Why are you talking to him first? And it just goes into the downward spiral of management and leadership that this organization continues to show their fans that they can't read a room. I mean, even the other night on Saturday at the game, I watched Josh Harris basically high five guys coming out of the game at the end of the game when they got their ass beat. They got embarrassed at home. There's no juice in that building right now. It feels just like it did when I first got those tickets 8 years ago. It's almost like we've went on a roller coaster up, and now we're back down where we started at. And he's going to sit there and have the balls to basically congratulate those guys for getting their doors blown off by a team that's not even great. There's probably two names on that Memphis Grizzlies team. The rest of that team is nobody's.
Zach Edey included.
Well, now hold on. I didn't say that.
But Chris, to your point, it's been 40 plus years since this team has won an NBA championship. You're talking about a team that's in the top 5 market in America. That's inexcusable. This organization just doesn't know how to win. They don't.
Not only that, but it's almost like, so we've joked around and been showing our listeners that we're wrestling fans, right? And there's been times where over the years we watch something on different wrestlers, different characters, whatever. And one thing is that when you're a baby face, it's said that baby faces don't always make the best champions, because a lot of the allure of the baby face is the chase of the belt. And to me, sometimes it feels like the Sixers are in love with the chase, and their decisions, sometimes it feels like they don't really, not only, I'm not saying they may not want to win, but they don't know what that means and how to get there. To your point, Al, they don't really know how to be a champion.
That can be said for the whole city, though. All the teams and the fans, in my opinion. I think we all like the chase better than the actual title.
There's absolutely a conversation to be had about that. But when I watch these guys and this team, that's what I think of. I think of, like, they just want to be in the conversation, but in the end of the day, it's like the Joker and Batman. The Joker never really wanted to kill Batman, because what would he do without Batman?
Yeah,
right. Like, it's the same with the Sixers. What would they win a title? Then what? What are we talking about?
Yeah, true.
What are we talking about? They won the championship. They got there. All right. And that's the flow of logic, but at the same time, that's how I feel they are.
Yeah, understood. All right, but we have a cool exercise tonight. We mentioned that this was just another event in a long line of Sixers mishaps over the past decade, and we thought it might be a brilliant idea to rehash a bunch of them. So I think, and we're going to rank them, I think, is in regards to, I guess the ranking is how Sixers this was compared to just, would that be the best way you would put it, Al? How Sixers was this?
Yeah, how Sixers was this? That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
All right. Do you have a spreadsheet up?
I got a doc. Yeah, I got a little blank doc here I can throw up on the screen.
All right, I got a bunch, guys, and I didn't even research some, so there's some I could have easily forgot.
That's what you want, right? Just like a little
and we'll move stuff around as needed. Chris, why don't you didn't do a lot of research, but you said
None.
earlier, but we'll let you shoot first.
This is going to be all off the cuff from just bad memories.
Yep.
First
one, a pen so I can cross some off.
So, obviously, we're not going to. This is no order or anything as far as
right. We're going to order it as we go.
All right. So, I don't know why, but this event has kind of been in my head for the last couple of days since we talked about this being a topic. Remember the Okafor incident?
Yep.
In Boston?
Yep.
When he punched the guy, like, that was weird.
Yeah.
How that was all handled.
So like for those of you, Jahlil Okafor got in a fight at 2 a.m. in Boston and punches some Boston fans, 2 of them, and he gets caught on TMZ video. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah. And
I had that on my list for sure. Definitely one of the strange. And that was his rookie year, I think, wasn't it? When we actually had some hope for Jahlil.
I feel like that was like his first week. Like, wasn't it like right in the beginning of the year?
It was early.
Yeah,
it was early. And then he later got the speeding ticket for going 110 over the bridge.
Yeah,
I think you kind of put that in the
first
same
of all,
boat there.
as someone that's I'm petrified of bridges. By the way, that's not something I talk about a lot. But tunnels and bridges freak me out. So why anybody would want to speed in either one of those environments is beyond me. That's a death wish, in my opinion.
All right. So that's obviously the only one we have. So we'll leave that there. Al, why don't you hit us with yours and then we'll decide whether or not we want to move Jahlil down or not.
I mean, I don't think mine are more on the court, I think.
That's fine. I got some on the court ones too.
I mean, I could do an off the court one. I could well look, I'm gonna start with signing Tobias over Jimmy Butler. We're talking about dumb shit the Sixers have done, right?
Yeah.
So giving Tobias a max deal over Jimmy Butler. Are we putting that ahead of Jahlil Okafor punching the guy?
I'm not, because I think Jimmy wanted out. I don't know if they had a choice.
I think they did at the end of the day. You throw enough money at the guy.
The story was that they wanted him, but they didn't want him to talk to any other teams, and he wouldn't agree to that. So they let him walk.
So where do you got this, guys? You think this is worse?
I mean, I think that's more consequential.
Like the Sixers couldn't control Jahlil Okafor punching.
But I think the question is like when you wake up in the morning and you see the story, you're just like, that's so Sixers. Right, and I think it's more Jahlil Okafor.
Yeah,
but we have 3 votes here. We have 3 votes.
Dude, I don't know, Seltzer. It's very
right.
Sixers to sign a role player to $30 million a year over a guy that's a playoff superstar that could actually do something and help your superstar a little bit to get past the second round.
Listen, I'm outvoted here 2-1. We got a lot to do, so I don't want
to. Seltzer, with the benefit of hindsight, I think signing Tobias over Jimmy eclipses Jahlil, but the next morning, Okafor punching a guy in Boston was definitely above.
Okay. All right, you're the deciding vote, Al. You make the call.
I'll put it here for now.
Okay.
All right. So that's above now. So now that's the number one most Sixers thing is signing Tobias over Jimmy now. All right, Seltzer, go ahead.
I'm gonna take the cake. I'm gonna kind of mix it up as far as my thing here, but I'm gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone because we don't need to talk about both. The Sixers waste 2 number 1 overall draft picks on guys who have combined for 572 games and made 84 3-pointers in Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons.
This is number 1.
For the Sixers to draft 2 guys who just cannot shoot and play guard.
That's something very, to your point, the very Sixers thing. But if I could do it again, I can't say I wouldn't do that.
Correct.
Based on what we knew at the time and what we would know about those 2 players, they made the right decision, but because it's the Sixers, it didn't work.
Correct. That's the point. Like they draft 2 guys that just could not shoot the basketball and completely flail out after basically running a scheme to get the number 1 overall picks. They both completely flop.
I think that's number 1, guys.
Well, another one I'm thinking of is they had a guy who, well, without doing the whole story, simply Andrew Bynum.
Yeah.
Just the whole Andrew Bynum, all of it.
That started the whole thing. That's when the Sixers went into the.
If there was a Sixer movie, it would start at the Constitution Center with the Bynum press conference, and then it would just all go downhill from there.
I think,
but to be fair, it's that actually, ironically, spun the wheels to getting Embiid here,
right?
Because we had the need for a center because Bynum didn't play.
I think that's number 4.
I think Bynum. I think the whole Bynum thing was such a train wreck. I got that.
That's what I'm saying. The whole thing is.
Yeah, I think that's number 2. I think it's right underneath Simmons and Fultz.
Dude, remember when the neighbors were complaining because he was playing loud music and driving go-karts through the street at like 3 in the morning on their he was just an idiot.
And then they called him bowling.
Bowling party. Yeah.
So there was a story. I don't know if I told you guys when friend of the pod, Ian, met Andrew Bynum at one of the, I think it was the Chipotle on City Line Avenue. And the funny part about the story was he met him. He saw him walk by him in like the vestibule area of the Chipotle when you walk in or out, and he was just like, "Oh, like Andrew Bynum, what's up?" Da, da, da. And he tried to get a picture with him, and he said, "I don't take pictures with dudes," and then walked out.
All right, Seltzer says 4. Where do you want this, guest? I'm gonna call this the Andrew Bynum experience. I think the whole thing here.
Well, that kind of spawned that also started the whole Sixers loser organization thing too, because like we couldn't even get that right.
Yeah.
I'm okay bumping it over Okafor for sure.
All right.
And you could even argue that Bynum didn't even respect the Sixers enough to try to get on the court.
No, completely mailed it in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The bowling thing, like, come on, bro.
All right, Al.
All right. If we're just talking about funny Sixer stuff, then this quote, which I'm sure I know you guys have heard before, by Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson denies a claim made by a former teammate that he occasionally spent $40,000 at a strip club when he was a 76er. First of all, it was like now $9,000 at most, and there were never any strippers at the TGI Fridays on City Line, says Iverson, unless I brought them. Sometimes I brought a bunch. And I suppose in those cases, yes, the bill could get up to $40K because they didn't have the endless appetizers thing back then.
I did see that.
Dude, he's the man, dude.
Dude,
he's the man. He's the man.
Yeah. Appetizers, just blaming the 40,000 on the endless appetizers not being around.
So everybody in Philadelphia that was around during that time, I feel like everybody has an Iverson story, or at least has heard an Iverson story, and they're all and 90% of them are connected to Fridays.
Yeah,
I've seen him in there. I saw him in there.
He would be in there all the time.
Yeah,
and like for what? That's like why?
TGI Fridays now bankrupt this week.
Yeah,
For bankruptcy.
Well, because he has
how much he got him for.
Yeah, so I think this one has to go at 5, just because Iverson brought so much positivity to Philadelphia that he got a free pass.
Yeah, I agree. This is just hysterical.
Let me just say this thing too about Iverson. He's probably my number 1 Philly all-time athlete. But let's not act like it was all strawberries and whipped cream with our dude. Like, remember when we had the time with Tawana and him at the apartment in 50, I think it was by like St. Joe's, wherever it was, and he had the gun and she came at the house naked and the whole. If that was now, you wonder if that would have been the last we ever saw of him.
Yeah, I mean, he was lucky to play in the era that he did.
Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, but now they did had a camera on it. TMZ would have probably had a video. Who knows what was on that video or what happened on that situation? He definitely got away with like big time with being in that era versus now. But I mean, he had on and off the court. He was just the story.
We think John Morant can't handle social media. Can you imagine Iverson with social media?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
forget it.
For sure.
All right. I think this one may be number 1, not regards to what it did to the franchise, but just as far as a story goes. Sixers trade the draft rights to a future NBA starter for a guy who almost dies because of a peanut allergy and ends up only playing 13 games for the Sixers and Zaire Smith.
Yeah.
They trade Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith, and he almost dies because of a peanut allergy. If that's not ultimately Sixers, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that was terrible too. And for him, thankfully he didn't. That was. It's funny now, but at the time it wasn't. But then we had the Brett Brown situation where he literally said that he saw Kawhi Leonard in Zaire Smith.
Dude,
Like,
what did he ate like a sesame seed or something, wasn't it? It had a peanut
something
oil
like
on it.
that. Yeah.
Oh my god.
This might be number 2 only because of the Bridges attachment to it, because the whole city wanted Mikal Bridges.
Right. Right.
And, so
And they got him. And
right.
that's where my next one comes in. It's a perfect time for it. Brett Brown getting named to be the interim, basically GM, and in one summer, the damage that caused. I mean, Bridges getting traded, right? Like he had a say in that. The Zaire situation, obviously, being connected to it, and if I'm trying to remember, did he? No, I think it was Elton's first year with the Al Horford thing, right?
Yes.
So, but Brett was still the coach at the time. But that summer, I think, was just we are star hunting.
Yeah.
They didn't get near star.
We were star hunting without a GM.
We're still star hunt. Yeah, exactly. Like we're still trying to star hunt.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
So where are we putting Zaire here?
I think Zaire goes at 2. I think that's such a Philadelphia story. It's
so the scale is based on that's so Sixers.
Yeah, it's just like you wake up in the morning, you'd be like, that's so Sixers. Trade Mikal Bridges for a guy who gets a peanut allergy and never plays. That's so Sixers.
I mean, you also could say
and then
drafting the guy that doesn't play for 2 years because he gets a growth plate fracture in a foot that's still literally growing. And that's the main reason why he couldn't come back the second year, because his foot was still growing to the point where he couldn't heal the bone.
That's Joel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but that worked out.
Well, it worked out. Yeah. But at the time, and then we find out he contemplated retirement. Could you imagine if that happened? Where would we be at?
That would be I can tell you where we'd be. That'd be number 1 on the list.
Jeez.
That's so Sixers. All right. Kisman. Oh, Chris, you want to go Brett Brown as interim GM?
Yeah, I'll put that in there.
All-star hunting.
He wasn't even qualified. The guy was barely, well, I shouldn't say barely qualified, but being in his first gig as an NBA head coach, and then you give him the keys to the team, the organization, basically.
Yeah. I think that goes at 5.
Without winning anything?
Where do you got that, Al?
Yeah, I think it's pretty low because it's like kind of like a realistic thing that might happen to other teams.
Yeah.
Like
I think between 5 and 6.
Yeah, I mean, it won't be high on this list, but to say that it would happen on other teams, I disagree with that. Imagine if, like, I don't know, the Hornets made like Borrego all of a sudden their GM, or Bickerstaff in Cleveland. Like, they might be decent young coaches, but they're not going to make them the GM on top of that. Like, they got to master one thing first before they get to the next thing.
Yeah. All right, I'm with you. All right, Al, let's keep it moving here. I'm okay with that.
Brian Colangelo's fake Twitter accounts.
That might be number 1.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous.
And to the point where we were all like refreshing our internet and our Twitter pages and all to see if he got fired yet. Like, did they finally fire this guy yet? It's out of hand.
Yeah, it was funny too. The like some of the names of the accounts. Phila 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 was one of them. Eric Jr. was one.
Eric
of them.
Jr. was the big one.
Enough unknown sources was one of them.
So for those of you guys who are unaware of the situation, essentially Brian Colangelo, who was the general manager of the team, had a Twitter account under a third party name, a burner account, and would tweet shit about the players, specifically Joel Embiid, about the way he takes care of his body and plays to defend himself. And eventually it got caught, and that led to Brett Brown being the GM.
And here's the funniest one of all was this one, where somebody said this dude just loves collars, talking about Colangelo. And from the Twitter, one of his burner accounts, he replied, "That is a normal collar. Move on, find a new plant."
Like, nobody would say that.
How sensitive is he, dude?
It's so funny.
All right, I'm putting that at number 1.
Yeah, I think that's number 1.
All right.
Yeah, I would definitely.
What's crazy is we are 8 into this list, and we still haven't touched James Harden going to China.
Well, hold on. Don't.
I'm up. I'm up.
Okay. All right.
James Harden going to China after demanding a trade and professing to all the Chinese kids that Daryl Morey is a liar and he would never play for him again.
While he was still his active GM.
Yeah, while he
Or
was still
president.
on the team. we are on the 9th event here, and we still haven't had that. I think that's probably 4.
Dude, there's a few with that whole China thing. Like they had even remember with the JJ Redick thing when he used a slur and said that he had a slip of the tongue.
I forgot about that.
Racial slurs in the Chinese. I'm like, bro, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think that's 4. I think it's right underneath Zaire Smith. That's a good
James
spot
Harden calls Morey a liar.
Yeah. I went to Vegas and did it too. Got the whole party with all the Vegas showgirls with the sign, Daryl Morey is a liar.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, would you be surprised if Harden's on these Diddy party lists?
Wouldn't surprise me. Did you see the NDA that he had people sign? It was that they couldn't talk about what happened at the parties up until Diddy died and then up until 20 years after his death.
Really?
God. 20? What's he, JFK?
Yeah, 20 years. He thought that was the right number.
All right. Chris, hit us with another one.
Oh man, let me think. I mean, if either one of you guys have one off the cuff, you could feel free to jump in.
Al, you got some?
No, the rest of mine aren't really like they're not really like this anymore.
Oh, I've got a bunch.
Yeah, so I'll give you. I'm not going to put this on the list. Like I had like trading Charles Barkley, like that. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to put that on the list.
Yeah, I didn't go back that far. I still have a bunch.
Well, there is a Barkley moment though when he also, if you remember, he got in that fight in Milwaukee I think it was on Christmas.
He threw a guy through the glass.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of them. I mean, you kind of mentioned it, Seltzer, so I won't put it on the list. But trying to entice Markelle Fultz with Chick-fil-A, like bring it, like that's how you're trying to get a kid to come to your city is by telling him that there's Chick-fil-A's nearby.
Well, didn't he come? I think he came to the shoot around with Chick-fil-A, the first workout that he had with them. I think that's how it got spawned. I think because he came there with a bag of First of all, bro, you about to go to the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. You show up for a workout, and you bring in a bag of Chick-fil-A to go. Like you're hanging out with your homies. Like, come on, dude. You're supposed to show them that you're in shape and not going to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, we got Mark Saber watching live in the chat. Mark, you got to hit us with some ones we haven't said yet, brother. We need some more fuel to the fire here.
Seltzer, to your point, there's it's like so many different like stupid things that it makes it like my brain like scrambled to try to like pinpoint.
Do you want me to run through a couple that I have here on here?
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
Yeah. Is
Horford them signing a guy who was a thorn in their side only for him not to be able to play basketball, and then having to trade him, attach a first-round pick, and he's good again, Al Horford.
Yeah,
and he goes back to the team that you try to get him away from anyway.
Yeah, and you know the reason we don't have a first-round pick this year is because they had to attach a first-round pick to get rid of him, and that's why we don't have our pick this year.
Horford's probably 5. I think Horford's right underneath Harden.
Yeah, just the Horford debacle of him just coming here and not being able to play, and the fact that we thought that team was going to be good, and when it was Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, Joel Embiid. Can you imagine the shooting on that team?
Yeah.
Imagine we saw it.
Oh my God, that was terrible.
And the bad thing, and we got sucked into that.
Yep. Bully ball was what they called it. Bully ball.
Yeah, bully ball, all right.
Obviously, we talked about already. The Embiid Marcus Hayes thing has to be on here somewhere.
How about our owner going out and then basically buying our other teams, rival teams?
I think I can go on the list. I think it's down a little bit, but I think I can go on the list.
Like, how do you not read the room? Like if there's ever an argument for him for saying that he's about the money and not about the organization, that's all you need to know. Like, he's out there. He already had the Devils, and then he buys the Sixers, and then he buys the Commanders, and all these teams are in the same Northeast corridor, and all these fan bases hate each other. Why would you buy teams in all these fan bases? Like, where's your allegiance?
It's about the money, baby. All right. Here's another one that I think is crazy we haven't talked about yet. Ben Simmons holds out and comes to practice with his phone in his pocket.
Yeah, what is he? Like a seventh grader?
Yeah. And just the Ben Simmons refusing to play basketball here ever again.
Yeah, well, just the yearly Ben Simmons summer highlight tapes too.
Yeah. And I know like that Simmons taking him 1 overall kind of, but I think this is like post Atlanta Hawks Ben Simmons.
Well, I think speaking of Hawks, that moment in itself, that game 5.
Yeah, I have that on my list.
Also, you could go to the next the Celtics year, up 3-2, finally on the Celtics with a game at home, and you leading going to the fourth quarter, only to see Jason Tatum just go off, and then your guys don't show up a little bit in Boston for game 7, and then have the nerve to say we can't do it alone.
How about the guy in the stands that was coaching Ben Simmons how to shoot a free throw?
Or lest we forget the doctor who gave Russell Westbrook the finger at the at that home opener that year, the Embiid's first game.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's like fun stuff. But that wasn't.
A couple other ones. I don't know if you remember this from the first year Embiid played. He gets hurt. They have a national TV game 2 nights later.
Oh, the Rockets.
Against the Rockets.
Yeah.
They let him play. He balls out because it's on national TV, and that's when they sucked. And then after the game, they're like, "Oh, we found out he has a torn meniscus," and they shut him down for the season.
Yeah, that's very that's very insane. Sixers. That was that the same? I'm trying to remember. Was that the same game where Corey Brewer famously got up in James Harden?
Nah, that was later on.
I thought so too. I think it was the next year.
Yeah, that was not that situation.
Harden might have actually had 50 in that game you're talking about.
He did. I was at that game.
Yes, me too. Yeah, I think he
all right.
went off with that one.
I have 5 more, and these are all minor ones. I have the Kawhi Leonard shot. I don't know the fact that it hits the rim 18 times.
Oh yeah, I try to forget that moment. But you're right.
About that. How about the head coach? I know this is my boy, not your guys. How about the head coach after a player has a good game saying we're not going to go on a victory tour for this guy?
The Paul Reed victory tour.
Yeah, when Doc was just playing DeAndre Jordan and Paul Millsap, and then Paul Reed has a good game and has to defend himself by saying we're not going to go on a victory tour for this guy.
Doc Rivers in general just being a disaster.
Yeah.
I have 3 more. This is process error. KJ McDaniel's mom forcing him out of Philadelphia by demanding a trade.
We've had a couple mama issues.
A lot. Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot. And sisters too.
Mark Fultz. They all had their moms involved with some stuff.
And I got 2 to blame on the Sixers arena staff here. Condensed ice on the court cancels a game against the Sacramento Kings.
I was there for that. You talk about confused. We were in the crowd like, why are we not playing this game?
I was at the Eagles game against the Ravens in the preseason when it got canceled, and that was kind of the same vibe. And then the last one I have is the confetti game with Boston, where they thought they hit the game-winning shot to win the game. They put the confetti down, and then they lost it overtime.
Yeah.
That's so Sixers.
That was the playoffs, right?
Yeah, it was game 3 against Ball. It was the first year they made the playoffs when they had like Bellinelli and Ilyasova.
Yeah, I was at that game.
Yeah, they were up. They were down 2-0 in the series, and Bellinelli hits the shot. They thought it was a 3 to win it. They put the confetti down. It was just a 2. Went to overtime and they lost.
Yeah,
that was the one and only time I almost got kicked out of a building because you know how my hatred of the Celtics is. And when we made that shot, there was this couple that was right in front of us. And I literally was just like, F you, this is our city. Get that. The guy was like, yo. He was, because he knew me from being at the games all the time. He was like, yo, chill, you got it. I got to do my job. You got to chill. I was like, my fault. But I was like in that dude's face.
Dude.
How about it was in the regular season, but how about when you remember when Joel made that full court shot against Phoenix?
Yeah.
And it didn't count by a half a second.
Dude, he threw from the other foul line.
The whole building literally jumped out of the friggin', everybody went nuts. And they're like, hold up, let's review it. Nope. Wave it off. I was like, oh
Do you think other franchises have this many like quote unquote moments, or,
No.
or you know, I mean, you know what I mean? And we just don't look at them under the microscope.
I
The way
think
we
the
do
Knicks
with
might.
pictures?
I think the Knicks might, but a lot of teams don't. Like, there's a lot of teams where their fan bases obviously don't care nearly as much as we do
Yeah,
anyway to
yeah.
even remember these moments.
Right.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, again, we talked about, Chris, you mentioned like they probably the game that changed it all was the Atlanta game 5 when they blew a 26-point lead with 3 minutes left in the third quarter to lose that game 5. That happens to teams like that. You can look back on like the game when Dallas beat Phoenix by like 70 in game 7 in their building. I'm
Mhm.
sure they would talk about that in this situation. But some of this off the court stuff, man, like
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm, just,
yeah,
I'm just wondering if like maybe like Patty Mills missed a game in San Antonio because he had too much Burger King before the game or something. We would never know about that.
But I
Yeah.
don't think like San Antonio ever has to put together a list like this because of the success they've had. We just continue to be snake bitten over and over again, and this stuff continues to rear its head.
Well, now to play devil's advocate, you're a free agent in the NBA, and you can go anywhere you want, and the Sixers want you, and you look at this list and you see and you hear these stories about this organization. Is that going to entice you? Is there anything we said that would entice you to say, you know what, that might be the organization for me?
Ask Paul George.
Well, money talks.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But Paul George about to get his Sixers debut away in a few minutes here. Are you guys staying up for that or what?
Yeah, I'll watch it for a little bit. We got a PD tomorrow, so
Yeah, so do I. I'll be up.
I'll be in the office tomorrow. But anything else before we wrap tonight?
Best bets?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What do you got? I'm on a little bit of a roll, but I haven't looked too hard yet this week.
I've been terrible, so I'll go ahead and start and just get this out of the way. I really feel like that my under pick for the Birds and Jags got stolen. That looked like it was going well under after the first half. I think it was like 45.5 was the total. And then all of a sudden, both teams just decided to stop playing defense, and Sirianni just never decided to coach at any point in that game. I'm going to Sunday night this week. The Texans are at home hosting the Lions. The Lions are on an absolute tear, just running through the league. People thought that they were going to maybe have a misstep in Lambeau. There was a lot of talk about it being their first true outdoor game, and in weather. It was cold and rainy, and Detroit just stepped up and blew their doors off. But I think they have to lose at some point. Houston's a really good team still, even without their top 2 receivers on the field. I think it's a tough game for Detroit. I don't know if Detroit's going to go 16-1 this season. Detroit's giving 3. So I'm going to go ahead and take Houston getting the 3 points Sunday night in Houston.
Chris, you can go next.
There's 2 games. That's a great game, Al. There's 2 games I'm looking at. I guess I'll just go with the latter one. So the Jets at Arizona. Arizona, we know, has played tough all year. I believe they're 5-4 now, right? I believe they're in a playoff spot at this point.
Yep.
Yep.
And the Jets just continue. You talk about snake bitten franchises. I bet the Jets fans got a lot to talk about.
They probably have just as many moments as
they're living one right now.
Yeah.
With Aaron Rodgers and those guys. Give me the Cardinals. It's close to a pick 'em. I see it right now at Arizona -1.
Yep.
Give me the Cardinals in that game at home to beat the Jets.
I'm double dipping with you. I'm on the Cardinals. I was on them last week. I think they're probably one of the most underrated teams in the league. If you look at their schedule, they've won 4 out of 5, and this Jets team hasn't really done anything to impress me by any means. You know, I know they got the win last week. They got a little bit of a rest advantage. Haven't played last Thursday, but I think this Arizona team is sneaky good.
Can I give you a one more pick to a upset special?
Yeah, hit us.
Do it, because you guys had the same pick. So, give another one.
Yeah, so I'm going to take Pittsburgh +2.5 at Washington. And I think that this is a game where Washington, obviously, they're off to their best start since 1996. They have the best quarterback that they've had in probably 11 years since RG3 in his prime, that rookie year. And they had a big game against the Eagles looming on Thursday night on a short week. This screams a game where they're looking ahead of the Steelers. So I'm going to take the Steelers here on the road, 2.5 plus 2.5 over Washington. I think they're going to win that game outright.
I like that pick as well. I'm with you, Chris. And let's actually wrap with Eagles Dallas predictions because we didn't even touch on. The air has been let out of the balloon a little bit with the Dak Prescott injury. Doesn't look like he'll be suiting up for the next few weeks. But the Eagles Cowboys always a big rivalry that I'm sure we'll recap next week. I don't see any reason not to stick with the Birds. Dallas seems to be free falling. Eagles seem to be peaking, but it's never that easy. It just is never that easy. I'll go Eagles 27-20.
Yeah, Dallas is really bad. They're down there at the bottom of the league as far as point differential, as far as all of their statistical numbers are concerned. They're down there with like the Giants of the world and the Saints of the world. Don't let it confuse you just because they got that crappy star in their helmet. I think there's no reason why Philly can't go in there and roll these guys. You kick a guy when he's down, kind of thing. It's going to be another year where there's no repeat division winner for the NFC East. And what's that now? Like 14, 15 years or something like that?
It's been a while.
I think it's longer than that.
Yeah, so I got the Philly. I got Philly going in there and continuing this momentum. I see no reason why it won't happen. So give me the Eagles, something along the lines of like well, wait, real quick, AJ Brown. What's his availability? What's his status? Do we know?
They said the injury is not terrible, so I don't know if he'll play this week or not. I'm sure. Again, it's only Monday night, so it's hard to get an update.
I would think he's not, only because they have a bigger game next week on a short week.
All right.
So that's just me speculating. I don't know, but
I'm gonna take the Eagles 29-14 because Sirianni's doing so much weird shit with these 2-point conversions. I don't know. There's no conventional score anymore for the Eagles. So 29-14 Philly.
Yeah, Jerry World just been a house of horrors for the Eagles. I think they'll win the game, but I think somehow, some way, Dallas is going to make this a game. I think the Eagles are going to prevail ultimately, but I think it'll be close. I would say 27-21, with Dallas not being able to get much going in the fourth to make it a game or take the lead. But I think it's going to be a biter for a long time in this game. Real quick before we wrap up, how about your boy, both of your guys, Derek Carr, who you loved in the preseason in the rankings? How about him getting the same dude fired twice?
You ain't got to sell me.
How does that happen? He got the same coach fired on 2 different organizations.
How about when the pundits were out here calling for Derek Carr MVP after week 2?
Yeah, man, they haven't won a game since.
Yeah, that
was happening. I did also. I heard on the radio today he's the first quarterback in NFL history to have lost to every team in the entire league.
Oh my god,
that's a sin, man. I still don't feel like skill-wise he's that bad. I think he just finds a way to just get in front of himself.
He's also, I think, lost more games in his first 10 years as a starting quarterback than any quarterback in NFL history. He sucks.
He got that bag,
he's
though.
Just good enough to be a starting quarterback, but that's it.
Right. That's what that stat's telling you, is that he was just good enough to stick around, because there were other guys like actually like his brother David that probably would have broken that record.
Yeah. Dude, David, I think, had the most losses through 4 years of a career. Derek Carr's got the most through like 11.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, Sabers in the chat, he says Sixers game's underway. You know what that means, guys. Time to drop that beat.
Is Paul on the court?
He just went